Who am I? At the moment I can't think of another question whose importance is ultimately overshadowed by its irrelevance. I can't even begin to count the times I've asked that question or how many times it has haunted me in the last decade. But what I can tell you is the freedom of understanding the irony of the question and not letting it get to me anymore. Many of us find ourselves in the search to define who we are. I remember when I was in boot camp back in 2000 and the captain had asked me why I joined the army. My answer to him was self-discovery. You see, I had lost my mother to cancer in '99, and the loss hit me so hard I felt displaced. Back then, I was scrambling to find something that would occupy my mind, something to give meaning to my life. The impulsive choice to sign my life away seemed a feasible option at the time. I won't go into details, but after boot camp, the Army did define me for a time. I was a soldier, a modern-day warrior, and it gave me purpose. As my 8-year contract was coming to a close, I came to realize that being in the Army was getting in the way of the other things I wanted to accomplish. My siblings were having children, and I was missing the first moments of life. Twice I signed up for college, and twice I was called to serve overseas. Before, between, and after my deployments, I was sent overseas on annual training. The second time I was deployed kept me away from the second love of my life. Although I can't blame my deployment completely for that breakup, it did have a part to play. In the end, the Army didn't define me anymore, so when it came time to re-enlist, I didn't. Later, I come to realize that although I consider my time in the military memorable, it was time I spent trying to run away from the pain of losing my mother. With the pain of losing the second love of my life, I wanted to run away again. I ended up moving to San Francisco, and long story short, because of a chain of unfortunate events, I wound up getting there broke. It was a strange transition going from having more than enough money to buy a house to being flat out broke. Listen up, guys. Don't take depression lightly. It'll find ways of screwing with you beneath the radar until you find yourself living on the good graces of strangers, friends, and or family. I remember my bed was an oversized pillow, and my pillow an army bag filled with clothes. My roommates, 2 of them strangers, fed me for months, while another friend wired me money until I finally got on my own 2 feet. Now I regard all of them as brothers. Although my choice to move was motivated by cowardice, it revealed to me a lot of my weaknesses, even though I wouldn't fully understand them until years later. It was another transition, and although I was the same guy who had been in the Army for years, the experience turned me into something more. I came to the realization that with every new experience, life lesson learned, and subsequent transformation, I was no longer the Epiphany I was before. I can laugh about it now when the memories come to mind, how every time I'd ask the question, I'd find a different answer. Think about it this way. Are you the same person you were when you were 5 years old? 15? 20? Note the arithmetic. Likewise, we won't be exactly the same in another 5, 10, or 15 years. So I've come to dislike the use of the term, "this is who I am." The best anyone can say is, "this is who I am right now." Nobody should ever expect to always be the same person they are today. I'm not trying to force this notion on you, I just don't believe we're meant to stagnate in our ideologies. What happens when we do? We give birth to impossibilities in our closed-mindedness. How often when some questions are asked is the answer suddenly, "it's impossible"? Let's get rid of world hunger. Let's strive for world peace. Let's get rid of the monetary system. I'm surprised when I hear it's impossible and people chalk it up to human nature instead of thinking new ideas. When I look at my own life and I think about human nature, I have to shake my head at the people who think it's just set to one way. If you've seen my last vlog, you know what I think about the human soul, and without tying it to some theology, I know we're meant for greater things. Listen, this isn't an essay, so I don't want you thinking I'm trying to convince you to believe what I believe. I'm just putting out there a fragment of who I am at the moment, and if anything I say makes sense to you, then it's up to you to discover how it fits in your life. All I can say is through the irony of self-discovery, I become a person of possibilities. I know that even though I'm more than who I was a decade ago, there will always be room to grow. There will always be something new to experience and learn, and who I am today may not be the same man a year or a decade from now. I understand that in being human, I'm also an animal, but I can express my thoughts with more than just grunts and gestures. that my method of communication has depth and impact. However life on Earth began, we've evolved into who we are, and if in our arrogance we believe this is all there will ever be, then we aren't worthy of our sentience. If this question is one that's haunted you, take a breath and be at peace. The answer will always be elusive, will always morph itself into something more depending on who you are at the moment of the asking. Accept it for what it is, a path leading infinitely down a road of possibilities for the betterment of the self and by default, mankind. I hope you could take something from this vlog, even if you don't agree with me entirely. Remember guys, I don't need you to like or favorite this video, but if you think it'll mean something to someone, please share it. Thank you for stopping by, and until next time, have a wonderful life.